And we are live. Hello, and welcome to Passion Speak, where we give those with a passion a platform to speak. Our goal is to enlighten and inspire with the stories of people who have a passion. My name is Sandra Jennings, and thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this live this evening. Tonight, I have the honor of welcoming George Bayard, founder and CEO of the Grand Rapids African American Museum and Archives. A native of Delaware, Maryland, George A. Bayard III completed Delaware High School to pursue a bachelor's in art and education at the former University of Delaware. This led to him working within the Wilmington public school system prior to becoming the regional manager for one of Philadelphia's largest art and picture frame franchises. Moving to Michigan in 1988, George established the award-winning Bayard Gallery of Fine African American Art and Books, West Michigan's largest gallery devoted to artists of color. And 2018 marked its 30th year in business. Welcome, George.
Thank you for inviting us, Sandra. I love to be here and want to talk passionately about the things that we do.
All right, all right. I appreciate that. I want to say also thank you because, as I understand it, you got interviews lined up next week. It is the beginning of what we know as Black History Month. And so I'm just really pleased and honored that I'm the first one to talk to you, and we got great timing. I appreciate that.
Yep, you're going to kick it off. And, of course, we know, of course, that February, while people call it Black History Month, we know Black history is 365. It goes all the time. And as a museum that teaches Black history, that's one of our mottos.
Yes, absolutely. So, what would you say you are passionate about, George?
Well, art, collecting, family, all of those things I'm passionate about, and they're all rolled into one here at GRAAMA. The Grand Rapids African American Museum, we call GRAAMA, and it even has a basis in the way we used our acronym. It is symbolizing grandmothers, and we did that on purpose. My grandmother was a collector and got me interested in collecting, and that's how we ended up starting an art gallery first and then a museum later.
So I understand you've been doing this for over 30 years, starting with some art education. But let's talk about your journey to West Michigan. And that's been 30 years, right? At least 30.
Yes, yes, a little over
Um,
30 years.
and you've had a number, you've evolved. That talk to me a little bit about how it has evolved over the 30 years. I mean, you went from art gallery to business to, and now just talk about that journey a little bit. I won't spill it on the.
Oh, that's okay. Well, when I was young, I was one of those kids that kind of knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. My dad was an artist, and all the guys that I hung out with were artists. And I knew that I wanted something in the art career. So I knew I was going to set my goals in life to become a fine artist, is what I thought. But as I went through the studies and took classes, I found out that art wasn't all just drawing, painting, and sculpture, but that there were a lot of other ancillary things that came with art that you could do to make money. My mom and dad always said, you're going to be an artist. You're going to be one of those starving artists. And I was like, I don't want to be a starving artist. I want to be an artist that makes money. So I tried to do things and find things that artists did, but they got paid a little more handsomely than people who were kind of sitting at an easel, drawing or painting, waiting for a sale to come through. So I learned commercial art. When our high school put on a edition, and some of the classes that they had started in a new edition was art, commercial art, and it told me how to do printing, framing. We did all types of multiple imagery, photography, things like that that we weren't doing in our regular art class, and that really opened my eyes as far as where I could go with my art career. When I got to college, that still wasn't enough for mom and dad. They said, you better back that up with an education degree. So I decided to take art history, and that was art history and art education. And that really kind of took me to where I am now.
So you started with a store in Grand Rapids on Wealthy, where you
right. Oh,
did
nope. On Michigan Street.
Michigan.
Yep.
Was that your first one? I thought
Nope, that's right. When we first moved here, we moved to Michigan Street, and then we moved to Wealthy Street.
Oh, okay. And then where did you move?
And then we moved to Kalamazoo Avenue.
And you were still a for-profit organization or company at that time.
Right. We were still a for-profit gallery. We were still doing framing and appraisals and doing art shows. When we moved to Kalamazoo, the space was small, so we did mainly art consulting, appraisals, and framing. Whereas when we were on Michigan Street and we were on Wealthy Street, we had much more room and we could branch out. That's when we added books and collectibles. We also added outside tours. We had started to do collecting of things other than artwork, and started to put together what we called the Underground Railroad Show, kind of based after the Underground or the Antiques Road Show. And we went touring around the city with our collections of things that we had in our own personal collection and things that we collected from people here in the community.
Okay. Station break. We have Kamara Bayard. She says, hello, everyone.
Kamara, that's my daughter. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Hi. Thank you, Kamara, for chiming in on us, checking us out. So when did you go from profit-making venture to nonprofit organization?
Well, that process was kind of a slower process. We had a transition while we were over on Kalamazoo Avenue. We ended up having to move out because of some water leakage problems, and then moved over actually into LifeQuest building where Brother Jerry Bishop is. He was gracious enough to give us a storage space over there, and we used it to organize our traveling exhibits. Shortly after that, and that was about a year's time, we were able to secure some funding at the time from a number of grantors here in the community that gave us a chance to do two things. One was to put together more cohesively the items that we had already collected. And secondly, we were able to launch our program called GRAAMA's Voices. And that was where we went around the community looking for the most elderly people here in town, and we interviewed them. We ended up doing maybe about 30 interviews of people here who were in town. What got us with this particular project was that it was served as the basis for the history that we would tell later when we got a permanent museum. People would tell us about the riots that were here in 1967, or they would tell us about closing down South High School, or they would tell us about Buster Mathis or Paul Collins and some of the people that were here. And we ended up, like I said, getting a portfolio of about 30 interviews. Each one of those interviews would lead us to another interview or tell us about 2 or 3 more people that we should interview. And so we still haven't, to this day, got to all the interviews we really want to. Of course, because we were looking at elderly people, they were the ones that we knew that were oldest in town. So Many of them passed away
Mhm.
before we could even get to them and get their stories on paper. I know you, as a interviewer too, realize the value of interviewing people who are of that older age group, that can go back a little more and give you the history out of the mouth of the gospel there, so to speak. So,
Mhm. I in fact did something very similar to that for a photography class I took.
okay.
And I took pictures of a person and then interviewed them. So same concept. So I really appreciate that. Another station break. We got Brian Stewart, who is a family. Good evening. He's tuned in. Thank you, Brian, for tuning in and watching us. A friend of mine, Penny Jones. Hello, I remember when you were in on Michigan Street. Yeah, a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
I
us
remember
remember
Penny.
that.
Hi, Penny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so so then once we started doing that, it was just a matter of finding a space, and probably right after that, we started looking around. We knew the place over at LifeQuest was not going to be large enough for us, so we started looking around town for a building. That year, someone from the city of Grand Rapids, we had done a number of projects with them, asked us if we wanted to do an art prize project at the building we're located now, 70 or 87 Monroe Center,
Mhm.
or Breonna Taylor Way, as we call it now.
Mhm.
Um, they wanted to know whether we had artwork that we could put in here for Art Prize. And we said, yeah, we still have our connections with all of our artist friends, our local here in the Grand Rapids area, as well as Kalamazoo and Muskegon. And so we decided to put up an art exhibit. We were too late to get into Art Prize formally. So what we ended up doing was to just put work up, but we still got the impact of Art Prize. People
Mhm.
still came through. There was still, um, we were getting, easily a couple thousand people a day. And everybody asked us, well, when are you going to open up the museum? Are you going to stay here? And we had no idea. The city came back after our prize and said, do you guys want to keep the place? We'd like to keep you downtown. We need a presence of African Americans here. At the time, there was um, the local Mocha coffee shop across the street were the only other African Americans on Monroe Center. So we became the second, and decided that yeah, we would take the building, but we knew what the rents were downtown here, so we said I don't think we're going to be able to afford it. And they said, we can work something out, and they did. They worked something out. They kept us here for the first 4 years, and then we took it on ourselves for the next 4 years, and here we are now in our eighth year. So
Wow.
it's a, a traveling road that has been kind of smooth, fairly smooth. We've been able to manage here. Now that we want to move out of this location, the road gets a little more bumpy, but we know we're really confident that we're going to find a place that will take all of the programming that we've done. We did a study.
Wait. I got to interrupt you.
Okay,
I want to
somebody
do a
else.
station break.
Okay.
Barbara Hendricks. Good evening. I'm interested in hearing George's story. You're not going to hear a lot of it because we got a lot to talk about, but I'm glad you tuned in, Barbara. And watch him for his interviews coming up because maybe you'll hear other bits and pieces. She said she met you at the GRAAMA, so she was
Okay.
probably downtown. Well, obviously downtown somewhere. So
Yeah. Well,
thanks for
thank you for
tuning
coming
in,
by,
Barbara.
Barbara.
Yeah. So I want to go to you did this promotional piece that is on your website, and I want to just show it real quick because I thought it was nice.
Okay.
So
The Black community has shaped the American character and experience. Now, Black history has a new place in downtown Grand Rapids. Visit the Grand Rapids African American Museum and Archives on Monroe Center, 1 block southeast of Rosa Parks Circle.
nice promotional piece. I like that.
Yeah, we still use it. As I said, that was a collaboration with Downtown Grand Rapids Inc., who helped us get into this building, and so a shout out to them. We'll be doing some more programming with them later on in the future, and they help us with a number of different projects here in town.
Okay, so briefly, I want to talk about before we let this opportunity get away from us. I want to talk about some of the programming coming up next month. So, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
no,
Okay.
it's
Oh,
fine.
did it go off? No, hold on. Let me get it back.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about it just a little bit more. You'll kind of talk over it, George. There's no
Okay.
sound on it.
The the first project, we're calling this our partnership series. February is our partnership series. We wanted to do outreach into the community. Um, for years, we've tried to get people to come down to the museum, which we have been successful doing, and we still have exhibits here. But this year, we thought it would be different to kind of work with some other groups in the community and branch out a little bit, which we do anyway. But these are more specific for the month of February, and it helps us to get funding, and it also helps us to collaborate with people in the community who want to work with us. So our first project is with Fountain Street Church. It is a exhibit, Black History Through Art and Artifacts. It is up right now and will go until March. It's a great exhibit. If you get down to Fountain Street, you can just pop in anytime during the day and look around. We have a reception on the 8th in the evening. You can come by for that also. But what it does is tell Black history through a timeline of not only art, but artifacts. And one of the things that people don't know about Fountain Street Church is that they are very much in the forefront, or they were in the forefront, of having speakers come in. We know that Malcolm X spoke at Fountain Street Church. Stokely Carmichael spoke there. B.B. King played there, and they were always at the forefront of civil rights and social justice. So our artwork that goes in there supplements their collection. We've got a few pieces from our own archival collection, as well as artwork from local people and some international people. So that's one of the things I think you want to check out through the month of February. One of the other things is an exhibit that we have up now called Martin Luther King, the Man. Everybody remembers Dr. King as a iconic figure standing on the Washington Monument, or standing in the pulpit, or standing up giving a speech someplace. And we were able to find a collection of photographs of him that are in a more relaxed mode, where he's with his children, or relaxing by the pool, or shooting pool on a pool table. And these are a series of photographs that we have that have been either donated to the museum or in our own personal archives.
And that is down at the GRAAMA.
That's at the GRAAMA. Yep, that's here. And we've extended that through February. People, we're going to take it down at the end of this month, but people want to see it, so we are extending that exhibit to February.
Okay, so and if people want to know more about the events coming up in February, they can get your website or your social media, which is all there.
Yep.
I want to just briefly go over the Bolden versus Keith Theater that was at the Grand Rapids Public Library, and just talk a little bit about that, if you will, George.
Saturday, one of our collaborations was with the public library, but we also had a number of other historical groups here in town doing presentations. We sponsored John Vanderploeg, who is actually our vice president of GRAAMA. He's a lawyer and very familiar with Grand Rapids and some of the civil rights cases from there. And the Bolden versus Keith Theater was a landmark decision back in 1925. In briefly, Dr. Bolden, who's a Black dentist, I believe, and some friends wanted to go to a show at the Keith Theater, which is about a couple blocks from where we are now. It's not there now, but it's kind of in the back of Kendall College, Kendall University. And so it's was on Lion Street. And I think that if you know anything about civil rights or anything like that, there was a landmark case in Michigan in the 1800s that actually forbid discrimination, but it was customary over the years that people didn't do it. They just said, no, I have a business. If I don't want Black people or women to come into my business, you're not going to come. And so that's what they told Dr. Bolden, that customarily, you Black people have to sit up in the balcony. And he did not cotton to that very well. He said, no, we want to sit on the ground floor. There's no reason there's seating there. And they said, no, we're not going to seat you on the ground floor. So he went out, got the name of a lawyer, which was Oliver Green, along with Floyd Skinner. They came back and they sued the theater, or the holding company of the theater. And in the original Superior Court decision, the theater actually won and said, yeah, you have a right to, as a business person, to say who can come into your business or not knowing that they were actually going against the own Michigan law. So Oliver Green and Floyd Skinner took it to the Supreme Court of Michigan, and the Supreme Court did file in their favor and say, no, this is discrimination, and you have to seat Black people on the floor or wherever they want to seat. So it was a landmark decision. John Vanderploeg tells the story a little better than I do because he's a lawyer. He knows the ins and outs of the legal ramblings, but it was interesting to know that actually way before that case, Michigan had already ruled in favor of or against discrimination. And this was just a reinforcement of that earlier decision. There was also a gentleman here, William Glenn, who tried to sue before the Boldens did, and he also lost his case. And even in the case of Mr. Bolden, Dr. Bolden, he didn't get any rewards or anything for it. There wasn't any money paid out. They just changed the rules, and eventually that theater got torn down, and other theaters came up and were at least allowed to let Black people sit anywhere they could in their theaters. So it was a landmark decision, and something that we sponsored for that event at the library this Saturday. And that is online too. You can go on to YouTube, look under History Detectives Grand Rapids, and you'll find that lecture as well as one that I did a couple years ago, and a bunch of interesting information about local history.
Okay, History Detectives.
Yep, History Detectives.
YouTube. Okay. So in the interest of time, we got still just definitely one more thing we want to talk about, and that is, where do we go from here as far as GRAAMA and the location, future planning, future programming, but more specifically the location?
Well, our location for right now is right here, 87 Monroe Center, and we'll be here at least another 6 months, and most likely almost another year. But we have an open invitation from our owner that we can move out anytime we want to. if we find a spot. We are desperately looking for a new place. Many people have heard that we were going to get a place over on State Street, and that just didn't. The negotiations just broke off. We didn't follow through with that one because we just didn't have enough time to raise enough money, and so we're looking right now for another place. We have about 3 or 4 options that have come to us, just as people have heard that we're not going to go to State Street, one of which might be a gifted location, but we're not really sure about that. The other 2 places, we've checked out one, the other one we're going to look at next week. And so for us, it just opens the book up again, the playbook up again. We know we need 10,000 square feet. That's the minimum we're going to need to do the programming and storage that we want to do. What gets lost a lot of times in our name is that people know we do African American history, but we are an archives, and our archives need space to be able to put people's papers, artifacts. We'll be a vault for those kind of things.
Okay, wait, let me interrupt because we're going to talk about that because I got a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
But we have a couple of guests. Deborah Pryor Bayard. Great for folks to know about this landmark decision, talking about the Bolden case.
Oh, yep. That's my wife. She was down there too.
Okay.
And
then we have Gina Zen Bivens. Oh, History Detectives GR.
Yep.
Is Gina, is that the YouTube? History Detectives GR?
Yes, that is. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's where you want to go.
Okay,
and Gina will tell. Gina did a fantastic presentation down there too about Market Street and how Market Street used to be a thriving place, and now it's just gone. The stores that are there are gone. So,
yes, it is. That's the one we're talking about. Okay.
Yep. It's all about local history.
Okay.
And as I said, we will want to work with people. People want to work with us. Right now, one of the things that our museum and our board wanted, technically we could move any place, anytime we want to. But ownership is the thing that our board put on the table and said, if we're going to wait all this time, if we're going to do all this fundraising, we want to be able to own the building that we want at the end. There's not very many places around that African Americans own that are 10, 12,000, 18,000 square feet. So we want to be the largest cultural institution here in town, being able to service people in the arts and culture, events, movies, all of that type of thing, and do all the programming that we've been doing for the last 8 years, just in a more comfortable position. Right now, we got a call yesterday. A group wants to come in, elderly folks. They have 50 people, and you've been down here, Sandra. You have 50 people. While it's okay, it's going to be a little tight squeeze, and so we wanted people to be able to relax, walk around at their leisure,
especially in this day and age of us needing space.
Exactly. And so for us, storage and extra storage and extra programming space is not only a must, but it's something that we need to keep our health better too.
Right.
So
Kim Oglesby is saying she loves the gallery. Thank you for watching, Kim and Gina, and for dropping in, Deborah. We appreciate you.
Hi, Kim. How are you doing? Glad to see you're on board with us. And the other thing too is that we even though we've been talking about this, and even though we we're pretty much ready to move over to State Street, we still haven't kicked off our capital campaign. We still haven't brought it to the people yet, which we will do this year. we're going to probably start it off with a big art auction, and then go into the rest of the year with a goal to raise money. By then, we will have chosen a building, I'm sure, and we'll have a better sight on how we're going to raise money, where we're going, how we're going to get there. The
I
other
want to
thing,
add something at this point. And people, when you're talking about an art gallery and grants and nonprofit organization, people like myself, we're grassroots. I mean, for us to write a $75,000 check is going to be a little more difficult than some of the organizations, but there's power in numbers, right?
yes,
So if each of us gave what we can just as a gift, and a lot of us did that, that would still add up. That's the whole premise behind a GoFundMe. So
right.
hopefully you have a grassroots campaign, and maybe even on your site there's a place where you can give, even if a small gift,
Yes,
right?
there's that. We have that right on our link tree. You can go onto that, and that'll take you into all of our social media and donating websites. So, and then we'll have other little things where people will be able to, buy a brick or do something like that. We know that to get where we need to get, that'll be grants and foundations to help us. But we know that by opening it up to the public, from grade school kids to elderly people who want to use us as something for their estate, we'll be able uh, to incorporate all of that into the community, because it'll make people more vested. If you're a little kid and you're going to give your hard-earned $20 that you use shoveling snow to the museum, you're not going to be one of those kids that comes back and spray paints the side of the building. So,
Right.
they're going to be invested, and we want to be able to incorporate all of that into the museum. And as I'm talking about that, when a good example is what you said with the Bolden exhibit. When John gave his lecture, people were learning African American history, but they were also learning Michigan history, and they were also learning national history from that one case. So when you come into our museum, we've always been open. Sometimes African American museums get stigmatized by saying, "Oh, I don't want to go in there. I'm only going to learn something just about Black people, or something that I don't really need to know." And almost everybody that comes in here walks away saying, "Wow, I really didn't know that," or "Wow, I didn't know that was a part of Michigan history." And so for us, it's telling the stories, and the stories cross over to indigenous folks, Latinos, African Americans, Dutch folks. I mean, it covers all the races and all the peoples. And so when we talk about our history, it's one of those things that makes you say sometimes, because it's so expansive that you can't tell it all. And I wasn't going to say this, but there are some places where that's being eroded, and we are glad to have the ability to tell those stories here in Michigan, and actually be able to be a support for those places that don't or are curtailing the stories and history of African Americans. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Kim has another comment. She no longer lives in Grand Rapids, but in Chicago. I finally remember this institution and its contribution to the community. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, Kim is a fan.
Okay, thank you.
A fan of the museum, and we appreciate that.
Thank
So you had to give your 2 cents on that.
you. Sorry.
We
I know
promised,
I wasn't going to say it, but
we promised we wouldn't go there because we could literally fire up our anger.
yes.
We go down the wrong path, and we know that. We're just grateful that we have a resource. Michigan has some other resources. We have museum in Big Rapids,
Yes.
up at Ferris, right? We have a
Yes.
museum in Muskegon.
Yes.
We have the Wright Museum in Detroit, and there are other resources. So this one is in West Michigan, and for some people, it's just closer.
Yes.
I have something. We talked about this recently, and that is the possibility of artifact giving, because you may not have money to give, but you may have an artifact. If you have an African American artifact in your home, say you don't have a huge collection, maybe you only have one little piece, and you're thinking, what is that piece? It doesn't even have a matching piece, or it kind of doesn't go with my decor, and you just want to see it go somewhere. You accept artifacts as well, right?
Yes, that was something. I'm glad you reminded me of that, Sandra, because people think, well, I don't have money to give, but I don't know what I'm going to do with that stack of ebony magazines I got over there. We'll take them. We'll at least look at them. We may not take everything, but there are so many things in this community. One of the reasons we got started was people kept bringing us things, and they didn't know what the value was. They didn't know what to do with them. And we normally said yes to everything. And so our collection is so big now. We've got both of our rooms in the back, storage space clogged up. We have 2 storage units. We have the public museum holding things for us. We have the museum school holding things for us. And then 4 or 5 other people in the community are still holding collections for us, because we just don't have the room to show everything. And it's why I tell people, if you have something, especially if you're not sure about it, bring it in and let me take a look at it. I'm a licensed appraiser. I still do appraisals. And even if you don't want to donate it to us, you could bring it in and at least have it appraised before you throw it away or take it to the Goodwill or sell it on eBay. And believe me, we have pickers out there for the museum, and they find things all the time in the Goodwill that people have discarded that are quite valuable. I was saying there's some holy grails out there that we're even still looking for. We know there's a tape of when Malcolm X spoke out here in the community someplace. We know that there's posters from when Emmett Till's mother spoke here in Grand Rapids. So there's things out here in the community that people might have in a stack of papers in a trunk someplace, and think that it's just trash and I'm going to throw it right out. One of the reasons we've got into this business that we have heard through the stories of people that we've talked to, that things were thrown out, lost, stolen, and destroyed, and we can never get that history back. And that's history that helps to tell our story here in Grand Rapids. There's a guy that had posters that he took off of telephone poles from every performer that played here in Grand Rapids, lost his house, got evicted. The guys that were even at the eviction site were saying, wow, these posters are probably worth something, but their orders were to throw them in the dumpster, and that's what they did. And they were just lost to humanity. So please come down anytime. About 2 or 3 times a year, we have appraisal day where it's free appraisals. You just come in and bring things. But there's also people who donate things to us all the time. Grand Rapids has been sending missionaries to Africa for 200-300 years. And it has been collections that people have from their times in Africa that they brought back here that can go into any museum in the country, any museum in the world. I've seen things in people's collections here that are that would be in the Smithsonian if they didn't keep them themselves or donate them to us. And so you never know. You never know. And the
just
thing is, like
remember.
I said, some of these things might be quite valuable. I mean,
Mhm,
my picker told me that he saw a pin, a button, just like this, a pin
mhm.
um, that somebody just sold. It had Frederick Douglass on it. Sold at auction for almost $100,000 recently. And so there are things out there that you just never know what the value is. We of course would love to have them. And if there's something that you're even um, confused about or not sure about, just take a picture, send it to me on my email, and I can get right back with you.
Okay. Deborah, your wife has put a link tree there. The link won't work. They can view it. It's a little long. So maybe they can just go to your social media and look at the link tree and it'll take them to the various areas where they can look at how to donate.
Yes. Yep. They can do that. They can do
Yeah.
that.
And you also can, if you're going through grandma's old stuff, you can always bring it to the archives because we will, especially if you have just a small amount that doesn't amount to a real collection.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I
and then
mean, all kinds of things. We're like looking for anybody out there got a leisure suit? You remember what they were in the 70s? Leisure suit? Yeah, we need one to complete a display that we're doing. All kinds of things that you may not
wow,
really never think about,
you would
but
never know. We'll
but
take some platform shoes.
there we go. There we go.
Oh, Kim
Yeah.
said just like the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
exactly.
That's exactly what we are. And except our story tells the stories of African Americans here in town. There's a uh, and then there's things that people have gotten during high school. I'm doing some things now for a guy that was a high school track star, and he's got all of his memorabilia here and some of the things he's donated to us, photos and things like that. So I tell you, it's the vision of the completed museum. The completed museum will take us from the late 1700s up to the present time and into the future as far as the stories of African Americans here in Grand Rapids. And there's so many of them that we know even with the largest museum, we won't be able to tell all the stories. I mean, because if we just take the local stories, that's going to take up almost a whole floor of, of a museum. And then if you add in the national stories and some of the things that are happening in the future and some of the things that are exhibits that are changing, you're going to need 20,000 square feet. And as I said, that would be perfect for us, but we'll get away with 10,000 if we can.
Okay. All right, we're gonna wrap it up because you're gonna have your share of interviews coming up, and we don't want to take all the thunder from everyone.
Well, Sandra, it's been a pleasure. I love your broadcast, and we will promote it for you. Like I said, as we go, we take people with us, and we want people to be able to log on to your show and tell about their passions.
Yeah, I have lots of archives, not lots, but I think this is episode 90, so I've been doing it just for a couple of years. But having a lot of fun doing it. What what did she say? Kim, she is an excellent host. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. I am not a professional. I like to say that. So when you see me stumbling over myself, yeah, that's me learning. But I appreciate you, Kim and George, and appreciate what you're doing in the community. Um, and Barbara's giving. Oh, thank you, Barbara Hendricks. I think she enjoyed herself. I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna watch for you this month, particularly this month, with it being the kickoff of this year's Black History and 365. We're going with the 365. That's
Yeah, yep,
yeah,
yep, yep.
this is American history.
Yeah.
Because the GRAAMA is such a gift. Yes, it is. All
Yeah.
right.
Can I add a couple things, or you're on your
Yeah.
time switch? Well, it's just the other things in February. We're going to be doing something with the symphony. I think that's a sold out of event. We also are going to be doing something with the Cross America at the Crossroads. That's with the Ford Museum, a guitar exhibit. We're going to have the ice sculptures here. We have an ice sculpture of Al Green. You can come down, take a selfie with that. And then we also have a talk about the Horseshoe Bar over where the Horseshoe Bar is, 333 Granville Avenue or Cesar Chavez Avenue. And that's going to be live music with Isaac Norris as well as a talk on the history of the Horseshoe Bar, which was also the Lamar Hotel, one of the first places where Black people could stay in Grand Rapids. So February is just cram-packed full of things. And, get online or get on our Facebook and you can find out everything that we're doing in February, March, April, May, and on into the future.
All right. I appreciate you. And thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll see you, George. This is Passion Speak. And thanks for watching.